In the previous lessons, we discussed a concept called the short vowels, or in Arabic known as the harakat. And we said that there are three harakat. The fatha, which is basically a dash above the letter, which has the a sound. We also said we have the kasra vowel, which is a skew dash below the letter and has an e sound. Lastly, we said there is a dhamma, which is basically the kind of a ribbon above the letter and has an u sound. So these are the three short vowels in the Arabic language: the a, I, and u. Now, the good news is that the vowel system in the Arabic language is quite simple, especially in terms of sound. So like in language such as English, there are, I think, about 5 short vowels, whereas in Arabic, there are only 3. But here's the thing. Even when we speak about the long vowels, it doesn't get much complicated in terms of sound because the long vowels are only extensions of the short ones. So they have the same sound. So the fatha vowel over here, which is the a sound, can be extended to have an a sound. And the kasra vowel over here, which is the e sound, can be extended to have the e sound. And the dhamma vowel over here, which is the u sound, can be extended to have the u sound. That's in terms of sound. Very simple. Now, what we want to do is discuss these one by one. So these over here, the a and the e and the u, are all the long vowels or the mad in the Arabic. So that brings us to our lesson today. So I hope you saw that connection between the short vowels, the harakat, and the mad, which is the long vowels. So the long vowels are but extensions of the short vowels. So we want to take them on one by one, just to ensure that we are not confused, because there are a bit of detail in the mad, right? And it is often that students or seekers of the Arabic language become a sort of, even if you know, you can identify and apply these concepts, sometimes it's a matter of confidence. How confident are we that we know what we are doing when it comes to the mad, the extended sound? Let's take them one by one. So the a sound, which we spoke about, which is an extension of the fatha, is called the alif mad. The e sound, which is an extension of the kasra's e sound, is called the ya mad. The u sound, which we said is an extension of the dhamma, which is the u sound, is called the waw mad. Now you would see there's a repetition of the word mad. The word mad in Arabic means extension, right? So we have the alif extension, which is the extension of the fatha vowel. We have the ya extension, which is the extension of the kasra vowel. And we have the waw extension, which is the extension of the dhamma vowel. A, I, U. Now I started with the sound because the sound is the most simplest, or is the simplest component of this concept, right? Okay, let's start with the alif mad. As you can see over there, the alif mad, it looks very simple. It's just a stick. And it is simple, inshallah. One thing that we have to keep in mind about the mad, the concept of mad, right, is that they differ from the short vowels, which is the concept of harakat, in basically one major way. The harakat, remember we said it is basically marks. above or below the letter. So the fatha, which is the dash above the letter, kasra, which is a dash below the letter, dhamma is a kind of a ribbon looking shape above the letter. They are shapes and marks. However, the mad concept, the three mad concepts, the alif mad, the ya mad, and the waw mad, they are actually letters of the Arabic alphabet. And since they are letters, right? They take the rulings of letters, right? So they have a cursive form, they have a sound, they have sometimes the letters of mad have kind of two functions. They can either be a vowel or they can be a normal letter like any other letter. And today we're going to learn exactly how to identify whether this is the mad concept or this is another letter like the other letters. Okay, so let's start with the alif mad. The first thing you want to know about the alif mad is what is its symbol, the long vowel, the alif mad. How does it look? It's important to know, obviously, it looks like a stick. That's clear. But what's very important to know is that the alif mad or any mad letter will never take a haraka. So there will be no fatha on it. There will be no kasra below it. And there will be no dhamma above it. Now, you might see this sign over there, which we discussed also earlier in very brief, that this sign basically means that there is no vowel on the letter, which basically means no harakat, right? So that is why some texts will have the sign on the letter and some will take it away, because it's kind of obvious, right, that if it don't have any of the three harakat, it doesn't have a vowel. And that sign just means no vowel. Now, depending on which Quran or Mus'haf you're reading out of, that will depend on whether you will see that sign or not, the sign. If you're reading out of the Saudi print, or if you are going to read out of the Saudi print, you will not see that sign. It will look like that. If you're reading out of the Urdu print, you will see the sign, right? It might look a little different, but you will see the sign. But for the purposes of this course, we will be doing it without the sign, because that is the sort of where we're leading to the course. The font of the course of this course is leading towards the Saudi print Mus'haf. Okay, so we said no fatha, no kasra, no dhamma. Might have the sukoon, might not. Okay, excellent. So the key over there is that the alif mad carries no harakat. Always, never will it have a harakat. If it has a haraka, it is not the alif mad, and we will get to that another time. Okay, since we said that the mad concepts are all letters, it will also have a cursive form just like the letters have cursive forms. However, this letter is special. The alif, the letter is special, right? In the way that you would see over here. Over here, this is the cursive form. You see it's joining from the right. It joins to the letter before it. However, this letter and some other letters as well do not join to the letter after it. So let's look over here. Let's look at an example. You see, there's an alif mad. It's joined to the letter before it, but you'll see that it's not joined to the letter after it. Let's look at another example. It's joined to the letter ha before it, but it's not joined to the letter jim after it. Another final example here, we will see the alif mad coming again, joined to the letter before it, not joined to the letter after it. Okay? Okay, excellent. So is everyone with me so far? Is everyone seeing that? Okay, alhamdulillah. Let's move on. So the key there is the alif mad does not join to the letter after it. right? The alif mad cannot join to the letter after it. I'll get to the chat in a moment. I'm not seeing the chat right now. I'm struggling to get it up. Okay, let's do some application quickly over here. Now, like we done in the previous lessons, we said this is ba, right? The ba plus the a or the fatha is ba. Now we said that the alif mad is an extension of the fatha vowel. So it will extend the a to become a. So in this case, if we add the alif mad, the fatha's a will become a, and therefore it will now be ba instead of ba. Look at another example. We have here t plus the a or the fatha. If we add an alif mad, it will extend the fatha to a. Then we'll have ta. Same over here. Plus a. We add the mad, it becomes a. And we have tha. Same here, we have a plus the a. Add the alif mad, becomes a. And they'll spell it as ja. Same with the ha. Plus the a is ha. We add the alif mad, it extends the a to a. And now we have ha. Kha. Right, remember we said the letter kha with the fatha is not kha, it's kha. So we have the kh over here with the a, it's kha. We add the alif mad, it becomes kha, kha. So the alif mad extends the fatha sound. Let's look at some words, right? With the letter ba over here, we have bata. Can you see how I extended that? Instead of bata, I'm saying bata because of the alif mad. And take note that the alif mad is its name. The alif mad over here has nothing on it. Bata. Look at the letter ta. So look at the letter ta over there, you'll see it's thabata. Thabata. And not thabata because the ta was extended to become ta. We look over here, letter tha, the beginning of the word, thabitu. Thabitu. You see how we extended the a to become a, kind of doubled it. A, thabitu. Still the same word, just we extended the sound of the fatha. Jim in the middle of the word. And note how in all of these words, the alif does not join to the letter before it. Does not join to the letter after it, which is that is to the left, because Arabic is written from the right to the left. We have hijabi, hijabi. Okay, the letter ha, hajibu. Can we see nothing on it? Does not join to the letter after it. However, it's still one word. It's just that the letter alif is semi-cursive. Kha. Bata kha. Bata kha. Can you see how I extended the kha instead of kha? And also note that I said kha and not kha. Bata kha. Excellent. Before we move on to the well mad now, I want to say that all the mads are generally the same. Only the one, the ya mad, has a bit of is a bit different in terms of its shape, but the waw is almost exactly like the alif. How are you guys with the alif so far? I wanted to explain the alif and ya, how you guys found the alif. So Sister Masura is asking what is exactly is mad. I said in the beginning that mad means extension, right? So it's extending all the short vowels. So the alif mad extend the fatha vowel from a to a. The ya mad extends the kasra vowel from e to e. And the waw mad extends the dhamma vowel from u to u. Yes. When there is a alif mad coming after a fatha, you're going to extend the fatha from a to a. A to a. And we're going to do some more examples with the waw mad. Is going to be repetition of what we just discussed about the alif mad. So it's going to reinforce really. So let's move on to the waw mad. Okay. Like we said about the alif mad, there are certain important things about the symbol, right? So the waw mad, like the alif mad, will never have a fatha on it. It will never have a kasra on it. It will never have a dhamma on it. Right? Now, I want to clarify something here for those who joined us later on. Remember, I said in the beginning of the class that the short vowels or the harakat are shapes above and below the letter. But how the long vowels, which is the mad, differ from the harakat is that the mad are letters. They are actually letters. They form part of the Arabic alphabet. So they have a cursive form. They even have multiple uses. So why am I saying this? And you'll see that at the end of the lesson, right? That these letters of mad will not have a fatha, not have a kasra, not have a dhamma. Emphasize this because if it does have a fatha, kasra or dhamma, then it's not a mad, it's something else, which we will get to. But as long as you take note of this, you want to consolidate the concept of mad so that you are fully confident with the mad. So don't worry about any other concept. Worry only about the mad for now, because this is very important. We said it might have this sign over there, which basically means the same thing. It has no harakat. But like I said, some texts will have the sign in there, some texts won't. We won't put it in here because we're going with the Saudi print, and the Saudi print mushaf will not put it in there. When it's a letter of mad, they don't put that sign over there because it's kind of obvious, according to them. Okay, so the waw mad carries no harakat. Number one. Let's look at the cursive form of the waw mad, which is exactly the same like the alif mad, in that it is semi-cursive, meaning that it joins to the letter before it in that way. However, it does not join to the letter after it. It never joins to the letter after it, with absolutely no exception. The alif, there are 6 letters in Arabic which are semi-cursive, does not join to the letter after it. In the alif mad, the waw mad, or just the alif and the waw are basically part of them. Okay, let's look at an example. Can you see over there that the waw is not connecting to the word after it? Yes, someone's looking like a dhamma. It's like a giant dhamma. So because it's an extension of the dhamma, right? It's basically like a giant dhamma. Excellent. So can you see over there where the arrow is? You'll see that it does not join to the letter after it. Same here. It's joined to the ha before it, but not to the jim after it. The same over here. It's joined to the ha before it, but not to the ba after it. So it's semi-cursive. So now what this does, this might not be extremely important, but how does this help you? So that when you read, sometimes it kind of causes you a bit of confusion why there's disconnect here. Is it a separate word? Is it a specific ruling? But if you know that there's an exception, these letters are semi-cursive, you don't have to even think twice about that. You just have to know, just read on as normal. This letter just does not join to the letter after it. And obviously, the letter coming after it will take its form as it is in the beginning of a word, right? Because it's as if you're starting a new word, because that letter can't join to the letter before it, right? So it will basically take a different shape. Okay. So the waw mad does not join to the letter after it. Semi-cursive. Okay. Let's do an application quickly. We've done this with the alif mad. We're going to do it now with the waw mad in the same manner. Okay. So this is over here is boo. You add the waw mad. Can you see there's no haraka on there? The oo becomes oo, and then you have boo. Boo. Two. Add the waw mad. Became two. Thu. Add the waw mad. It became extended to ooh, and now you have thu. Same here, we have ju. Add the waw mad. The U extended to oo. We have ju, hu. Add the waw mad. And you have hu, khu. Add the waw mad. And now you have khu. So the waw mad extends the dhamma sound. Excellent. Let's do some words. So the letter, let's look at the letter ba over there. Taboo. You see, first I have the alif mad, and you can see it's not joining to the letter, to the ba after the alif, if you can see that. Then I have boo. So that's a word. Taboo. Letter ta. Thabatu. Note that the waw mad has nothing on it. No fatha, no kasra, no dhamma. Thubita. I have an alif mad at the end, but the focus is the red. It is the waw mad. Thubita. Letter jim. Tajubu. Tajubu. Ta. Can you see how the ta is short, but the ju is long? Tajubu. Hu. Huta. Huta. And if you note, if you start to see the pattern, you'll see that it is extremely easy to identify as long as you master identifying this concept. And I'm going to give you a secret at the end of the lesson, how to identify this concept, where you cannot go wrong. You follow these steps. So the letter kha, khuji, khuji, khuji. Okay. Before we move on to the yamad, let's see if anyone's having any issues. Please pronounce it on its own. On its own. So should I pronounce the waw mad on its own? Is that what you mean? The mad, Muhammad Riza, can you just confirm that? Do you want me to pronounce the mad letter on its own? Will we ever come across a mad without a dhamma? It seems that the dhamma is before the waw. Yes. Okay, I'm going to answer Zulaikha's question and Muhammad Riza's question at the same time. Zulaikha, it seems that the dhamma is before the waw. I love that you noticed that, because we're going to speak about that at the end of the class. So don't worry. Actually, I'm going to give you a secret about that. Muhammad Riza, very good question. Can you pronounce the waw mad on its own? The answer is actually literally no. Right? I cannot pronounce the waw mad on its own because it's an extension of the short vowels. So all the vowels, all the long vowels are extensions of the short vowels. So it cannot exist on its own. You have to bring the origin first, which is the a. And then the alif mad will just extend it, but it doesn't have a sound really on its own, really. However, its function is to extend the sound before it. So it's just sort of a sign that you have to extend the sound before it. If it was the alif mad will tell you extend that to become a. If it is the ya mad, which is this one over here, it will tell you to extend the e sound before it to become e. And the waw mad, like we've done, right, will tell you that you have to extend the dhamma before it from u to u. But the mad letter on its own, you cannot pronounce it on its own. It have to exist in that combination. However, and this is again, like I said, these letters have two functions. When it is not a letter of mad, when it's not a long vowel, then you can pronounce it on its own, right? But we will see at the end of the lesson when exactly will we know that when is this a mad and when is this not a mad, so we can pronounce it like any other letter. Will it make a difference if the ya has two dots below it? It depends on the font. That it depends on the font that you're reading. It depends from which book you're reading. The Egyptians write it in a certain way. The Saudis write it in a different way, depending on it's like British and American. But maybe perhaps we'll discuss that later on, maybe in the intermediate, or maybe I'll give you guys a secret of that later on. It is in the course. I do have it in mind. But it comes to more of a font thing and styles of writing. But you won't be affected in any way. We will give you the secret for that. Okay. The yamad. The yamad looks kind of like a bit of a duck. That is what a lot of people say. It looks like a baby duck with 2 feet. So Muhammad Riza, just wait for me at the end of the lesson. I'm gonna come to, in fact, I prepared a chapter for that question. Right. So the yamad, it looks like a baby duck with 2 feet. Right. And someone is saying, look like a snake with legs. Okay. Like we said with all the other previous long vowels, the yamad will have no fatha, it will have no kasra, it will have no dhamma, it might have a sukun, or it might not. But either way, that circle means basically there's no fatha, there's no kasra, or no dhamma. That's basically what that means. So that's why some people leave it out. Okay. So the ya mad carries no harakat. Like we said, the alif mad, ya mad, and waw mad carries no harakat if it is a mad, right? So we'll get to that also at the end, and you will really see the benefit of knowing that. Okay. Let's look at the cursive form. Let's look at the cursive form of the ya mad. Now, why did I leave the ya for last? I done the alif, then I done the waw mad. Now doing the ya mad. I should have done the ya mad first because the ya mad is a bit different. And the ya mad is something that you really have to take note of because many people become confused become uncertain when they see this letter in an Arabic text. Okay. We discussed before in the first lesson that the letter ba, ta, and tha, they all look similar. And the cursive form is similar as well, right? In the beginning of the word, they look like that. You'll see that at the end side, it's cut off, kind of like cut in half, and the dot is moved to the right to show that it's starting in the beginning of a word, so it will look like that. The thing about the ya, the letter ya in general, it follows their structure or their shape. So even though the ya would look different in isolation, however, when it comes to the joint form, it kind of looked like them, just with the dots, 2 dots at the bottom. So now this must never confuse you. So let's look at the middle. The ba, the ta looks the same, joining from both sides, quite simple. And the ya. So it follows their order. You just have to take note that it's 2 dots on top. Do not confuse this with the ba, which is 1 dot at the bottom, and don't confuse this with the ta, which is 2 dots, but on top rather than at the bottom. And you look at the end is no problem because the ya, it keeps its original shape just a little bit tweaked. But generally, you won't miss the shape. Remember, the main thing I want to tell you guys this, very important, very, very important. Do not become fixed and focused on the details of the shapes because there are so many fonts. Even if you just open a Word document and you go and you're typing an English document and you open the fonts, how many fonts do you see? Now, just like that, Arabic has many, 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 many fonts. It's calligraphy fonts. There are so many things. So the letters will always change shape, right? But if you kind of focus on the main or the core shape won't change. 2 dots at the bottom, they're not going to change 2 dots to become 1 dot. It's always going to be 2 dots at the bottom. However, where the dots are, how the dots look, be flexible with that. Keep that in mind. Very important. It will save you a lot of confusion. So if I can say ki ya, do not confuse the ya with the letters ba, ta, and tha. Right? Now, you might not fully appreciate this. If it's the first time you're seeing this, you might not fully appreciate it yet. Right? But you will see it as we do the exercises, as you look through the exercise, and you'll start to see, right, this is good knowing. It's good to know that I need to take note of this. Okay, let's apply the ya mad quickly. Right? So the alif mad extends the fatha. It only extends the fatha. The waw mad extends the dhamma. And here we go, the ya mad extends the kasra. So if you have this is B, you add the ya mad, it becomes B. Same with the ya. You have the T, you add the ya mad, the E becomes E, and then you have T. Same like over here. This is thi, like we know in the beginning of a word. You add the ya mad, it extends the sound of the E to become E. Then you have C. Same over here, G. Add the mad. The E becomes E, so you pronounce it as G. He. 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 Excellent. Let's do some words before we move on to the final part. Sorry. So the ya mad extends the kasra sound. For now, just understand that. We will speak just now about exactly which mad extends what sound and sort of draw a conclusion on that. So let's practice some words. So the letter ba, we can see in this word, I actually have two ya mads. So there you have two ya mads in here. I have one in the middle of the word and one at the end. Habibi, habibi. Can you see that? Bi. If those ya mads were not there, it would just be bi, habibi. But because of that ya mads, I have to extend the E to become E. Habibi. Okay. Letter ta. To be. Can we see the waw mad in the beginning? To, and then I have the B. That's the ya mad. Here we go. Khathi. Can we see the thi there? Letter tha. Thi. Khathi. See, there's a lot of mads in this words. Can you see how it's extending the sound? Not quick anymore. Here we go. Tujibu. Tujibu. And note how the ya mad looks different over here in the middle of the word and how it looks at the end of the word. It's the same letter, but remember the ya mad has a complicated cursive form. Not like the alif mad and the waw mad where it's just one shape and it doesn't join to the next letter. The ya mad joins all around. So you really have to take note of the shape and identify that these are the same letters. It's nothing different. Let's take letter ha. So buhithu. A waw mad in the beginning, and then I have a ya mad after the ha. It extended that he to become buhithu. Lastly, the letter kha. Bakhi. Bakhi. Instead of bakhi. Excellent. I just want to summarize this over here. We said we have the alif mad, which looks like a stick, has an a sound, and it's an extension of the fatha. The ya mad, it looks like a baby duck with 2 feet, or a baby snake, and it has an e sound, and it's an extension of the kasra. The waw mad looks like a giant dhamma. It has an oo sound, and it extends the dhamma. Now, okay. When we speak about how exactly do you identify the mad in a text? How do you identify the mad in a text? And is which mad extend which short vowel? That we're going to answer now. Before that, do we have any questions? Is there any book we can purchase to follow? Like I said, this is my own content that I created. So I generally have it done, but I'm fine-tuning it before we do each class. So maybe when I'm done, I'll publish it as a book. And then, but for now, you'll have to follow the slides as we go along. Is everyone okay so far? Is everyone with me okay? Is everyone with me so far before we move on to the last part, which is the most important part? Excellent. Alhamdulillah. That's good. Identifying the mad. Okay. There we go. There's a word with a mad. There's a word with a mad. There's a word with a mad. Now, I want you guys to do this for me. Quickly, if you guys can see, what do all these, the blocks which I highlighted, so this part in that word, the highlighted part in each word, what do they all have in common? Just say anything. They all have alif mad. Excellent. What else? And the alif mad, nice. Fatha, okay. The alif, is there anything on the alif mad? Is there anything on the alif mad? There's nothing on the alif mad. Excellent. So let's just summarize what most of you guys said. Firstly, we conclude that, look, the alif mad in all these words over here, and when I say all these words, I mean in any other word, in any text that has an alif mad. I use 3 words here, but this is a general rule. There will be no fatha on there. There will be no kasra on there. There will be no dhamma on there. There might be this thing over there, which basically means that it don't have any of the other things, or it might not be there. I'm just letting you know, because depending on which text you're going to be exposed to, I don't want you to be confused. That's number 1. So let's say number 1 is that there is no harakat. Now I want to say that if you do see a haraka, it is not a alif mad, it may be something else that we will discuss later on. But for now, that is not important as much as this is important. So forget about that. Just remember, alif mad, no haraka. We'll deal later on with what happens when we see something on there. That is very easy. But if you get confused with this, you're going to be extending things that you shouldn't be extending, or leaving things out that you shouldn't be leaving out. So no haraka on there. Second thing, and I want you just to quickly say this. If you look at the letter before the alif mad, what is one thing that all those letters have in common? They're all different letters. There's a ba, ta, and tha. But what do they have in common? What do they have in common? Fatha. Fatha, that's correct. Fatha, Fatha, that is correct. So you guys successfully identified this very easily, right? They are also joined. They are also joined, but that is not the focus point of this. So I want to say, like you guys said, the second key to identifying the alif mad is that there will be a fatha on the letter before it. Now, let me say this very clearly and never forget this. If you see an alif mad with either nothing on there, no fatha, no kasra, no dhamma, or it has that circle, fine. And before it, you see a letter with a fatha, this is an alif mad. It's going to extend that sound. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. It's going to extend the fatha. So the alif mad will only come before the fatha, after the fatha. That's for the alif mad specifically. You will only see it after a fatha, and it will only be a long vowel. The alif mad specifically cannot be anything else. Its other 2 friends, the waw mad and the ya mad, they're a bit different. They can be a letter, they can be a long vowel. Even the alif mad, the alif can only be a mad, right? That's extra information. But what you need to know is that if you see a letter with a fatha, after that letter, you see this alif, and it either has nothing on there or it has that circle, extend. Okay, identifying the ya mad. I'm going to bring out here 3 words, right? And I want you guys to look at that over there. And just like we done with the alif mad, very quickly tell me, what do these 3 words have in common? And use what we've done before with the alif mad. However, just apply it differently. Kasra before, yes. There's a kasra before the ya. There's always a kasra before the ya mad. There's always a kasra before the ya mad. I cannot repeat that enough. Now, this is not only in these words, it's in any of this type where this concept is applied, this will be there. Now, so let's conclude it quickly. No fatha, no kasra, no dhamma, no, might be have this sign, might not. Okay. No harakat. The second thing, he said that there's always a kasra before it. So if the alif mad must have a fatha before it, so that means the alif mad is an extension of the fatha only. You will not find an alif with a kasra before it. You will not find an alif with a dhamma before it. The alif specifically, its sole function is to extend. Okay, the ya mad is a bit different. It can be a vowel, a long vowel, it can be something else. However, if we want to identify, if this is a long vowel, if you see this mad and you want to conclude that the function of this letter is to extend the kasra, that it must meet these two conditions. Look at these as conditions. These are conditions for something to, for the letter to be a mad, for these three letters to be a mad. The ya must have no haraka on it, number one. Number two, there must be a kasra on the letter before it. If you find, if requirement number one is broken, if you see a haraka, if you see a fatha on it, then it's going to be pronounced as a letter. It's going to be pronounced, and we will do that later, it will be pronounced ya. If it has a kasra, it will be yi. If it has a dhamma, it will be you. Fine. We're not doing with that now. We're worried about the alif, the ya mad. So there's nothing on there. If it has something on there, it's not the ya mad. Okay, it has nothing on there, fine. We need to check number two. If before the letter, the ya mad, there's nothing on the ya, right? We have to check before. If there's a fatha on the letter before, it's not a ya mad. It's not going to extend. How can it extend the fatha? The alif extends the fatha. So it will be read something else. It will be read differently. We will do that. If there's a dhamma on the letter before, it will not extend the dhamma because the ya does not extend the dhamma. In fact, you will not find in a text a dhamma before a ya, period. If there is a kasra before the ya, and the ya has nothing on there, this is a ya mad. Lastly, to over there, I want you guys to just quickly tell me, do the same analysis that you've done there, and I want you guys just tell me if you see the pattern. Quickly. What do these three words have in common in the blocks that are highlighted? Always a dhamma before. Yes. Always a dhamma before the waw mad. What else? Remember, there's two requirements, not only one. The first thing is that there must be a dhamma before for this to be a mad. What else? Don't forget about the letter itself. There's no haraka. Excellent. If you see a haraka, if there, it's so important, right? That let's take this first word over here. Khabu. If there had to be a fatha on the waw, it would be read as khabuwa. It had to be a kasra, khabuwi. If there had to be a dhamma, khabuwu. So it's as easy as water. We will get to that when we get there. But it's so important that you understand this technicality, that the two requirements when you need to extend. We see a letter with a dhamma. After that, you see a waw after the dhamma, and that waw has nothing on there. You're going to extend over here. Khabu, tubu, huta. Okay. No fatha, no kasra, no dhamma. It might have that sign over here. It might not, depending on the text. The important thing is there's no harakat, no fatha, no kasra, no dhamma, and there must be a dhamma before it for this to be a letter of mad, and for this to serve the function of extending the dhamma from bu to bu. Dhamma and the letter before it. Now there's one important note, which is basically like a common mistake. And this is the last thing we're going to do. It should take just a few seconds. I just want you guys to just tell me, is everyone clear on the mad concept? Even if it is much to grasp, we don't want perfection. This is a difficult concept to grasp seriously, right? But if you at least understand, that's good enough, because you need to go back and practice. Okay, so remember, I'm not going to explain this again. The mad, after this, we are going to apply on all the letters. Whenever I explain a concept, it's only that once. From there on, if you don't fully grasp it, right? Or like, I'm not saying immediately, but if you don't go back and and really try to grasp it before you carry on. It's going to be challenging. Okay? Okay, I'm glad you understand. Good. Need practice. Now I want to show you something which is a very important, and I think all will relate. There's an important rule, a common mistake that we want to do. Now, by knowing this rule, it doesn't mean that you're going to solve it immediately, right? It doesn't mean you're going to stop making it, because it's linked to many things, linked to fluency, how comfortable you are with the letters, many things. But it helps to be aware of it all the time. So don't be despondent if you're making this mistake, but be aware of it all the time. If you have a letter with a short vowel, for example, a fatha, which is the sound. You have a letter with a short vowel, which is an sound, it's going to be read as ba, isn't it? Ba, short, ba. That's correct, fine. However, if you read this word, you see with a fatha, as ba, you see how subtle. I went from ba to ba, just a little extended. It's actually incorrect, because what you actually done is you added a mad. You added an alif mad. That's what happened, right? So ba. So the point is, when you see a short vowel, try to read it short. If you don't see an alif, no extension, try to be conscious of reading it short. Ba, and not ba. Okay, let's do this an example in a word. This word over here is thabatu, right? Thabatu. Can you sound short? Thabatu. When I join the word. However, if I read the same word as this, so look at the word, right? Thabatu. But now watch me say it. Thabatu. 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 Can you see what I done? I said tha, and then I said ba, and then tu. So I actually read it like that. Thabatu. I added an alif mad. And if it was a kasra, thabiti instead of thabiti. The important thing is, be aware that if there is no mad, you'll be read it short. When there is a mad, you will extend, right? And the opposite is true. So keep the harakat, or the short vowels, short. And I say the opposite is true, keep the long vowels long. So try not to shorten that as well, or to not read it, right? Did everyone get that rule? Now, like I said, this is not going to magically solve, right? If you have the issue, it's a fluency issue. However, it helps to be aware. It will speed up your learning. Everyone got that? Okay, alhamdulillah. That actually brings us to the end of the class. Alhamdulillah, I'll take some